Hi, welcome to Ep.1 of the Running Runners with Jack Tieken. Today I'm joined by Logan, Dorner, and George Witman from Colleyville Heritage High School. My first question is, what are y'all's plans for the school year?
Just go out there, get at least a 97 plus in every class, and pass my exams,
Yeah, I mean, this year we have college applications coming up, so I'm a little nervous about those, but just maintaining my academic performance how I have been while still dealing with that outside stressor, because like last year it was, you have to deal with cross country season and your classes, but now we're dealing with cross country season classes and college applications, right? So, I'm just starting to get into the process, but it's definitely a time consuming thing. It takes up a lot of your time. And so I'm just trying to focus on maintaining the little things that I do day to day.
Yeah.
Okay. So since you've been running, what would you compare, what was your life before you started running, and how does that compare to your life since you started running?
I don't even really remember since it's like such a long time ago. When did you start running? Like
I started running sophomore year.
sophomore year?
So I'll go. I think when you start running, there's a lot of lifestyle changes that come with it besides just running, And that's what they really say when they say you're trying to get something out of the sport besides physical training, right?
Right.
So a lot of coaches will tell you this is more than just a sport. And like Coach Taylor says it a lot, this is something you'll grow as a person with into a better person. And so like, before I started running, I was a kid, but now like the more I run and the more dedicated you become to something, the more dedicated you are to something and the more discipline you put into it, that those characteristics can carry over into other aspects of your life, right? And so what I'll say is I noticed like improvements in my academic side of my life. Like waking up for church was easier, doing homework in the evenings and just getting everything done was a lot easier because you gain this mindset of discipline and like what you're going to do, because every morning you wake up, you have to go get those miles in, right? And so once you get that mindset, you can apply it to other aspects of your life. And I think that's what I saw the most, because I'm still kind of new to running compared to some other people, but I think that makes it easier for me to see the big shifts in my life since I started running.
Yeah, that's what I'd also say. Like discipline is a big aspect. Instead of seeing something as a chore, it's more like a have to do it, and that kind of goes on to apply to a lot of things like homework, all that. And so when you run, it's like you have to do a run if you want to keep fit, you want to keep being a winner, and just get up there, keep building up mileage, keep winning races. It's just required of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when it comes to racing, what goes through your mind when on that second, third mile, when your legs are starting to feel heavy?
Right. So definitely second mile, I feel like that's when I kind of like ease off the gas pedal a little and just kind of try and maintain the pace I have originally, just focus on hawking down people, just go one person at a time. And then third mile, that's kind of when I start pressing down again really hard. And I just keep on like looking for the next person to chase. And then that final 800 comes and I just try and put it all out there, make sure I have no fuel left in the tank.
I would say I'm not really I would say I'm more of a conservative racer. I'm not the type of guy to go outside of my training base when the start of the race comes. And I think that's such a important thing, right? And I think it might be because I haven't challenged myself, maybe, that I'm not going super fast at the start of the race. And so that's something I'm excited for this season, to go out a little harder in these earlier season meets.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to the second and third mile, I'm usually just continuing. I don't really positive or negative split. Most of the time, I'm just going to keep a consistent pace. But what I would like to do this year is, if I'm going out the same pace, or if I'm going out a certain pace, I would like to increase from that, or I'm going to go out a little harder and maintain that, right? And so obviously there's a lot of room for experimentation before we get to these big meets like district, region, state. But when it comes to the second and third mile, for me, I think the biggest thing that is going to help you push forward to keep passing people is that mindset of hawking someone down, right?
Mhm.
Because when you're in the second or third mile, you're thinking this race is so far from over, right? Because when you're in the first mile, you've got the mindset of just pushing and trying to finish that first mile as fast as you can. And so the adrenaline is still there. But by the second and third mile, that lactic starts to kick in. And now you're wondering, I have a mile and a half. I have 2 miles left till this race is over. So how am I going to do it? And so when you look in front of you, there's a guy maybe 50 meters away. Suddenly the race isn't 2 miles left. You've got 50 meters left to catch this guy. And so you catch him and then you move on to the next guy. And so that's really my mindset when it comes to the latter half of a race, because that's what you really want to be focusing on.
Yeah, it's definitely easier to break it into chunks, like what you said, 50 meters. Okay, I got that 50 meters done. Okay, it's 100 meters to the next guy, and just instead of focusing on the whole bigger picture, just kind of break it down and make sure you get that done.
Okay. So then when it comes to hard workouts such as speed endurance or hill reps, and also like long runs, what are you doing to push yourself to the end?
I will say for workouts and long runs, like the best thing you can do is have a group with you, right? And so a workout in terms of hill reps is going to be a lot harder by yourself because you have to push each and every one of them individually as hard as you possibly can, right? When you're doing a tempo or something by yourself, or maybe a threshold, you've kind of got a little more room to push yourself just consistently and still maintain that pace because you're really not dying, I suppose. I mean, it's a lot easier to run a tempo by yourself than it is to do hill reps by yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that might just come from you have a longer distance, you're more alone with your thoughts. But when you're in those hill reps, it's just go, 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 right? And so there's a lot of adrenaline involved. And once you start getting to the middle, there's no adrenaline. And so you have this group of guys, and when you see them pushing the workout, that gives you a little bit more adrenaline to push the workout, right? So for me, I did a hill rep workout by myself on Thursday night. So we landed at 4, and I hadn't eaten since breakfast. And so I went and I got some food. And so going into the workout, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be terrible. It's 100 degrees. I just ate and I have to do 12 by 400 by myself, right? And so I get into it and I'm just thinking, how can I push each rep by myself? And so instead of thinking that I have 8 reps left, I tried to segment it into groups of 4. That made it a little easier because that workout was based around a 5K, right? It was 3 miles and a 200, so 3.14, and that's a 5K. And so I had a conversation with Coach earlier about trying to push the middle reps. So when I got to those reps 6, 7, 8, 9, in my mind, I knew I had to push them harder by myself because nobody's going to push those reps for you, right? But when you're with a group of guys, it's a lot easier to push the reps because, somebody leads this one, somebody leads this one. And so in terms of advice, it depends where you're going to be with the workout. If you're with a group, I would say be a contributor, right? Try to lead a rep or two and then let the other guys lead a rep or two. And so that's the teamwork that comes in. But if you're by yourself, you've got to pick a few reps out of the group that you really need to focus on, and then the rest should take care of themselves.
Okay. George?
Yeah, I would say that helps, just focusing and segmenting it like into different pieces like Logan said. And another thing our leader Patrick does when he's out there on the reps, he'll take a person, right, who maybe notice they're not doing too great on the rep, kind of staying at the back of the pack, and he's like, you got to take this rep. Nobody past this person. Like if Logan was suffering maybe on 4th or 5th rep, he'd be like, okay, no one passed Logan on this rep. He's got to lead it. If he, fails, slows down, then we're all going to slow down. So it really puts the weight of the team on your shoulders. You're kind of like, okay, now it's up to me. So you really go out fast that first 200 on that hill. Try to get back up as fast as you can. And I think that really helps, just knowing like the team relies on you. And another thing is just like running with the team on the workouts. Obviously, you don't want to get passed, right? So you're always trying to catch the next person, stay with the front of the pack as long as you can.
Yeah. When it comes to running with the team, though, a problem that we sometimes have is if somebody is chosen to lead a rep,
Yeah.
or whether or not somebody else chooses to lead a rep. So like sometimes I might say, you know, I want to lead a rep, but if somebody places the rep on me, it means a lot more, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So an issue you sometimes see is somebody will choose to lead the rep on their own. So we'll be at like rep 2, and then they'll try to push the pace super hard,
Oh, yeah.
right? And so obviously that's good if you're doing 4 reps, but for guys that have like 14, 12, 16 reps, going out at a pace way faster than what you should be is not advisable, right? So you have to consider, you know, what you're doing for the team and those hill rep workouts, right? So if you're chosen to lead a rep, you have to remember that these guys might have 10 more reps.
Yeah.
And so it's important not to kill the pace. So there's a little bit of a balance between, okay, I'm going to lead the team at a certain pace that's good for them, but it's also good for me. And so it's important to find that balance when you're doing a hill rep workout or a speed endurance workout or just those repetitive workouts.
Yeah, that's why I like that one, because usually Patrick will be like doing double the reps we do.
Yeah.
You don't have to really like focus on dropping him, you know?
Yeah. He's kind of there with you. And so just having that camaraderie in a workout is definitely helpful.
Right.
Okay. For all the different courses that y'all have run, like throughout your running career, what do you think y'all's favorite course race is?
Probably in terms of like environment, probably Chili Pepper. Right?
I personally hated Chili Pepper.
Really?
I mean, yeah, so for Chili Pepper, it was my like first race back off like a slight injury.
Yeah.
And, you know, time just wasn't there. And then it was super dusty, super hot. And so, I mean, obviously those are
It
excuses.
was rainy.
Maybe, are you talking about the year you went?
No, like junior year, it was both of us.
No, it wasn't rainy. It was.
Was it rainy, Ed?
No,
I
it was
didn't
super
go.
hot and super dusty, dude.
I swear one year it was rainy.
I think you might be thinking of
It's the year
Nike.
before.
No, because I remember we were like packing up and it started to rain.
That's Nike, bro. And if it's
Maybe.
not Nike, then you're thinking the year before. But anyways, this year that I ran Chili Pepper for the first time, it was super hot, super dusty, so I didn't like it. But for me, I think a course that's kind of tried and true is the Buff, you know?
Yeah.
There's fun elements to it, to where you're going down little hills really quick and then you're going back up. And then kind of towards the end of the lap, you've got that really big hill to go down and you get a little boost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think it's fun because there's something at stake every time you run at the Buff, right? And we have practice meets at the Buff sometimes, but like there's still something at stake to where you have to be getting ready for district, right?
Yeah.
And so races are fun when you don't really have stakes because you can practice and you can get better. But I think when there's stakes on a race, it makes it all the more interesting, and it makes it all the more like fun to look back on. Like, oh man, I remember that time at the Buff. I had a great race and the hills were just amazing for me. And we ended up doing really well at district, or we ended up doing really well for a JV meet. So I think the Buff for me is where I've had a lot of fun experience.
Okay.
Yeah, that and Nike's a pretty good one too. Just meeting Donovan Brazier, the GOAT himself.
I didn't get to meet Donovan.
Really?
I had the flu this year for Nike, but when I did go to Nike the year before, I had a lot of fun. It was me and George in the same hotel room, so that was hype. And then I think I ran a PR at Nike.
Everyone ran a PR.
No, not this year. I didn't go this year. I had the flu.
Oh,
it was the year before.
So did Mario.
Yeah, so did Mario. And so, yeah, Nike's a fun course. It's never super hot because you're kind of getting into winter.
Yeah.
And then the conditions are...
It's raining.
It can be anything. Like the year before, it was kind of dusty, but I mean, this year it was pouring rain.
Yeah.
So.
You miss it, bro. Everyone was slipping down a hill. And...
Yeah, Caleb went viral for Nike South. So, yeah, that's funny.
And just seeing like so many goats there.
Yeah,
Not to
you,
glaze, but
you get to meet a lot of people at Nike South. So
yeah, just seeing AB cross that line and you just
oh geez,
like
so
flexed.
you are glazing.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, Nike South is a fun one too.
So a universal part of every course is each mile and each step that you take to get there. What would you say your favorite part of the race for every course is?
Definitely the end.
Right? Yeah, when you're done, that's obviously the best
Just
part.
getting a walk and
Yeah,
kind of like go for a minute. Take your
seriously,
breath.
that's your favorite part is the end.
Either that or like probably the kick because you're close to the end.
Yeah, that's fair. I think this year we're trying to really focus on being a second mile team, so you kind of kick hard in the second mile, but nobody likes the second mile. I mean, it's the worst part. I would say the third mile, or maybe the second half of the third mile, when you know the kick is about to start, just like when you're before you start the kick, your race is pretty much over, right? You're not going to change much with the kick, right? And so George likes the end, but I think I like the part right before the kick to the end, because
So what would you say, like numbers wise? 2.2, 2.3,
like 2.6 probably,
2.6.
because you've got like another 700, 800 meters
Right.
that you're going, and then it depends on how long your kick is, right? So you got probably 400 meters, and then you start your kick, right? And so that last 400 where you're still pushing yourself as hard as you can, but then you get to kick with those extra muscle fibers. It's just that transition that I really like. So
Yeah.
that's for me, my favorite part.
So since y'all joined cross country, what would y'all say your favorite memory is? And like I told y'all earlier, this can be pasta parties, pool parties, meets, practices, or anything relating to the team.
Okay, so I just put Logan on cross country. He like quit band, didn't have an elective, and he just didn't have anywhere to go. So he decided to come to cross country. So he came to the summer practices like 3 days within the official practices. Do you remember Ryder?
Yeah.
So we're just doing core after a run one day. I guess like Logan was doing mountain climbers, was all on Ryder's mat, getting his feet on his mat. Ryder opens his water, pours it all on Logan's mat. Or did you pour water?
He poured water on top of me, not my mat. He poured it on me.
He poured it like on his leg or something. Coach saw it. He was screaming like that was the maddest I've ever seen him to this day.
Oh yeah, that was a fun one. Not for me. I thought Coach Taylor hated me because I was just doing mountain climbers, and then my feet got on his mat. And so I remember before he threw water on me, he kind of asked me to stop, and I was like, yeah, okay. And I was like in the process of transitioning to stop. Yeah, I was finishing the mountain climbers, and so move your hands up little by little, and that just wasn't enough for him, and so he decided it was time to get his revenge, and so he poured water on me. But he didn't run much longer after that. I would say for my favorite memory, man, there's so many,
Yeah.
But I mean, camps are always a fun one,
Yeah.
The things that go on at camp.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much, right? But there's just you go on runs, and then you get to interact with people from other schools. And so I remember this one time we had just like a normal run across Texas, which is it's a nice camp. It's probably my favorite camp we've been to.
Yeah.
And it was a CT, so it was just kind of like aerobic for what we do here at Colleyville. And so me and George are running, and this girl runs by us, and she's playing some music that's within our taste.
Playing Gorgeous by Kanye.
Yeah, so some Kanye West, and so we were like, oh wow, I like that song. And so George goes up to her after.
What? This is not how the story went, bro. What?
It was at camp.
No, you went up to Coach.
I told. Okay, oh yeah. Okay. So I told Coach about this girl and George's interest in her, and so
No, that's not even.
so Coach goes up to this
remotely
girl
laughing,
and tells her about George, and so they just kind of get to meet, and and she has a boyfriend the whole time, so it's just kind of like this little brother situation, and it's just
What?
like
Little brother
she's
situation? What
she's
does
just
that
kind
mean,
of
bro?
towering over him,
No,
and
she
like
wasn't. She's not that.
she's taller than him, and so it's just a little funny
No, she's not, bro. Watch the vid.
to look at it's just a little funny to look at my boy over there and just know it's never gonna happen. But
You're hating right now.
that's probably my
Watch.
funniest memory.
Just messing around at hotels is always fun too. I remember there was this kid, like, I don't know what meet it was. We were at this fire pit and his whole team was there, and it was like a small team though because he was like from a 3A school, and we were like telling his team, "Oh yeah, this guy just showed us his Kermit the Frog."
We convinced his team he had a Kermit the Frog impression.
and we were trying to get him to do it the whole time, and he just wouldn't crack. He held his own.
Yeah,
I respect that.
But just the hotels, you meet people you're never going to see again, and so you might
Yeah.
as well mess with them while you're there. And so I think we got Wallace to go into a hot tub with a bunch of girls in it at Mackey South 2 years ago.
He asked him to like play spin the bottle or something, I think.
Yeah, just being weird, Wallace. But yeah, no.
He's gonna listen to this. He's so mad, bro. You can see his face. Fish.
Yeah, those are the funniest memories I have for sure.
Okay. When it comes to running a race, what would you say your 3 biggest fears are, and how do you deal with them?
For one, like this is kind of unrealistic and won't happen to you in like 99% of the races you ran, but like falling down, especially at like the start. I remember that happened to me once at South Lake. Were you there? Did you see that?
I jumped over him.
That's crazy. I managed to bounce back, but just like that's gonna be embarrassing if that happens again for sure. You just gotta make sure you don't get pushed around too much by the back. That's definitely one.
Now that he mentions that, that might be my favorite memory when he fell down and I had to jump over him our first race of our junior year, and he's just kind of sitting there like with his hand up, not trying to get.
I think I beat you still though. So.
Oh, okay, whatever. But for like fears regarding races, I mean, there's definitely a lot of pressure to perform, and so there's a lot of fear that you won't hit a certain time or a certain place, and so. Especially in like championship season where you're going for those district, regional, state meets, it's
just waiting for the results. It's like you're on edge.
Yeah, and so I think there's a lot of fear of maybe just anticipation of just what's going to happen,
Yeah.
And so you just in those moments you have to trust that God has a plan for what's going to happen, and so He will choose how the race is going to go. He already knows how it's going to go and what He has planned for you, and so. That's kind of where I find comfort in those moments.
Right. Another one I have, I don't know, you're probably not like as susceptible to this, but every time I race, I kind of have to pee a lot. Like just because I get so nervous.
It happens to me on every single run.
Really?
not really races because I can like tone it out, but like once you start getting to like 6-7 miles, dude, it's at some point it's gonna happen, and so that's the worst part about it.
I'm always scared I'll just go to the porta potty and miss the race,
Oh,
even coaches.
No, that has been pretty close to happening before. I would say another thing is having your shoe come untied. That happened to me once.
That's never happened. I double, triple knot,
I've never had a spike come untied, but like
spike come untied. What do you mean?
Like there's a difference between a racing spike
right.
and a racing flat. But like on tempos, I've had shoes come untied so often, and it's just a little annoying because you either stop and then your tempo is basically done for because you're not hitting the time you want to hit without crazy ramping up the speed, or you just keep going. And so like this happened to me 3 weeks ago.
The 2 mile, right?
No, not the 2 mile. It was a 4 mile tempo, I think.
Whoa.
Maybe a 5 mile threshold or something, but it was just like I couldn't stop it, so I had to literally half a mile in, my shoe comes untied, and so I had to finish the entire thing with my shoe untied, and so it's just frustrating.
Yeah, or tank that stop time. You just have to pick and choose. Like,
well, the problem is you don't. It's not off your watch. Like when coach is timing, you come through 3 minutes, maybe not 3 minutes late, but like 30 seconds late, if you're going 6 miles, that's 5 seconds per mile, and so in a tempo, you're trying to hit a specific pace to get that endurance.
Mhm.
But if you go too fast, that's good, you're getting the extra training, but it's all case to case situation. And so having something that, I would say, the underlying problem that comes with having your shoe untied is just diverting from a plan. You like to have a plan before you go into a race, and so when something doesn't go right, you're a little fearful of how the results will come out. And so again, just knowing that whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and it's kind of up to you to make sure it doesn't happen by working hard before. So getting into that routine of having your shoes tied, I guess, is one thing.
Yep.
And then maybe
It's
being able
important.
to go to the bathroom before a race, eating the
Sure.
right stuff in the morning.
Yeah, most of these fears are pretty preventable,
Yeah, falling down's a tough one though, because if somebody pushes you over, I would say,
Just get to the front of the pack.
well, if we're talking about front of the pack, I would say racing outside your training base. Obviously, you don't want to go
Yeah.
out too hard. So I wouldn't say that's something I'm fearful of, because I'm kind of good with controlling how fast I
Conservative,
go
you
out.
said.
But also, if you do go out too fast, like Coach X talked about it at Talk
I
to Your
love that
Camp.
guy.
Or no, not Coach X,
Yeah.
Coach O.
Oh, Coach O.
I don't know why they go by letters nowadays instead of their real names, but Coach O talked about it at
Oh, yeah.
Top Tier.
That's in Wallace's logbook as well.
Oh yeah. So
What was it called? It was like-
Success and failure is what.
no, it's like your race is your training base or something.
Something
It
like
rhymed.
that.
I remember that.
Yeah, Wallace is pretty good with the rhymes.
Yeah.
But if you go outside of your training base, he kind of said it was basically game over, because there's really no coming back from that, and your legs just cannot recover in terms of stamina. So I would say fears that we have are preventable. There's not really going to be something that just pops up. A tornado is not going to come during the middle of the race.
Yeah.
It's things that are preventable, but that you failed to prevent. And so to keep these fears in check, you have a lot of things you do before a race, and that's why I like to have like a pre-race routine.
Yeah.
And so, like, warming up with the team is definitely helpful.
Right.
And then you have a little time on your own to like make sure your shoes are tied, get your bib fastened on your shirt good enough. And so having that little time to yourself and utilizing it in the right way, instead of just sitting there on your phone or getting a snack in 10 minutes before the race, is probably not the best idea.
Yeah,
So.
I'm also like, I don't know, it's kind of weird, but every time I run by a squirrel, I'm kind of scared it'll be like rabid and jump on me and bite me.
Yeah, you don't really run by too many squirrels in a race though.
No.
But I can attest
not
this
in a
guy
race,
is very scared of squirrels. We'll be
Yeah, like on that Fox Meadow.
him and I will be running
Oh,
side by
is it,
side, and if he's on the right side and a squirrel comes on the right side, he will jump in front of me or jump behind me. And so
Because he could be out for the season if you get rabies, out for life.
there's no cure for rabies. Yeah, if you get rabies, you're dead.
You gotta stop it easy.
So yeah, there's I'd say there's not going to be very many instances of unpredictable fears popping up.
And that's all we have for today. Thank y'all for coming.
Sweet.